Hi, I am Dr. Arsalan and today we are going to discuss the human respiratory system. First of all, we should know the definition of respiration. It is a biochemical process in which cells of organisms obtain energy by reacting oxygen with the glucose molecules to produce energy and carbon dioxide. So it is a biochemical process or oxidation reduction process. We can say that redox reaction in which the living organisms obtain energy. Energy is obtained in the form of ATPs. By reacting oxygen with the glucose molecules, as we know that the glucose molecules C6H12O6 reacts with the oxygen and produce carbon with oxygen gives carbon dioxide, hydrogen with oxygen gives water, and results in the production of 36 ATPs. So these 36 ATPs are produced from the single glucose molecule and are required for the normal body functions or physiological functions. For calculation or production of these 36 ATPs, you should go through my lecture on the calculation of ATPs, link of which is given in the description box. Calculation of ATPs. I have provided the link of this lecture in the description box. You should go through this lecture to learn that how many ATPs are produced from the single glucose molecule. So this process in which the oxygen combines with the glucose molecules and release energy in the form of ATPs, it is called respiration. It occurs in all types of cells and produces energy for that kind of cell. The system responsible for exchange of gases is the respiratory system. So the organs and systems which are involved in the production of these ATPs are constituting the respiratory system, and today we are going to discuss in detail this human respiratory system, that how many organs are involved in this exchange of gases and production of energy. Medically, the human respiratory system is divided into two parts. The first part is upper respiratory tract, also called URT, and the second one is lower respiratory tract, LRT. The upper respiratory tract comprises the nose and pharynx, while lower respiratory tract, it starts from the larynx through trachea, bronchi, and ends at the lungs. So in this lecture, I will throw light on these organs constituting the human respiratory system. Nose is the first component of human respiratory system. It is the only external or visible organ of the respiratory system. Only externally visible. All of the other organs, the pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi and lungs, these are invisible and are enclosed in the body, while nose is present externally. It has two nostrils, and these nostrils are separated by the nasal septum. Nose is made up of bones, cartilages and fibrofatty tissues. Bones present in the nose are nasal bone. This is the bone which constitutes the nose or structure the nose. Other is ethmoid bone. It provides base to the nose. It is lying just beneath the nose. Then the cartilage called nasal cartilage and fibrofatty tissues. Nasal cartilage is the anterior tip of the nose. So this is the structure of nose. Nose has two nostrils which are separated by the nasal septum. For respiratory purpose, nose has four components. The first one is mucous membrane. It is the internal lining of the nose. It secretes mucus. Mucus is secreted for the moistening of air, because dry air may rupture or damage the mucous membrane of the trachea and lungs. Therefore, the nature has gifted us with the mucous membrane which secretes mucus. Mucus is highly transparent secretion of the respiratory tract. It moistens the air, it humidifies the air. And then cilia, these are microscopic hair-like projections which trap the bacteria. Cilia trap the bacteria so that the infections may not occur in the respiratory tract. The hair are also present in the anterior portion of the nose called vestibule. Vestibule is the anterior portion of the nose which comprises hair. So hair trap the dust and particulate material. These dust and particles are trapped by the hair in the nose so that the lungs may not be accumulated with this dust or infectious organisms. Nose has rich blood supply in the form of capillaries so that the air may be warmed up to 30 degrees centigrade to make it capable for the lungs for exchange of gases. Nose has significance in the process of inhalation because it filters the air, it humidifies the air, as well as it warms up the air. So these three functions of the nose, humidification, filtration and warming up of the air, is essential so that the lungs or other respiratory tract organs may not be damaged or may not be harmed. The air from nose enters the pharynx. Pharynx is cone-shaped organ. The anterior portion of the pharynx is broad, while lower portion which joins the larynx is narrow. So this is narrow portion, and above this pharynx, this is the pharynx. Above this pharynx is nose, and below it is larynx. So it is cone-shaped organ. It is the common passageway for both food and air. Food from the oral cavity and air from the nose or mouth also enters through this pharynx. Thereafter, the food enters the esophagus and air enters the larynx. The pharynx leads to the larynx and it has three parts. Pharynx is anatomically divided into three parts. First one is nasopharynx, which is associated with the nose. Then is oropharynx, the portion near the oral cavity or mouth, and then is laryngopharynx, the lower one. This end is called laryngopharynx because it is linked with the larynx. So the first one is nasopharynx, second one is oropharynx, and third one is laryngopharynx. So these are the three anatomical positions or parts of the pharynx. It is common passageway in which the air as well as food both moves through it and then bifurcates or separates in the larynx and esophagus. So the nose and pharynx were the components of upper respiratory tract, and now the larynx and onward components, these are the partitions of lower respiratory tract. So we are studying the lower respiratory tract, LRT. Larynx is the component or the organ of respiratory tract which lies between the pharynx and trachea. It is located in the upper neck and it has projection of Adam's apple. So this projection is called Adam's apple. So from this Adam's apple, the larynx starts. The opening of larynx has cartilage plates in it to prevent its collapse. So the cartilaginous plate starts from the larynx, it runs through the trachea and then bronchi. There are no cartilaginous plates in the pharynx or lungs. So the cartilaginous plates are present in the larynx so that the larynx may not be collapsed or disrupted. And the opening of larynx, it is called glottis. Opening of larynx is called glottis, and above this opening there is a lid-like component called epiglottis. Epiglottis means above the glottis. This epiglottis has important medical function because we know that the pharynx has dual function of carrying both air and food. When we swallow the food, this epiglottis is closed. It is pressed downward so that the larynx is closed and no food may enter through this respiratory tract or larynx. So in case of swallowing the epiglottis, it is pressed down and closed. It closes the respiratory tract, while in case of inhalation of the air, epiglottis opens and the air enters through this respiratory tract. If unfortunately the food enters the respiratory tract by the failure of closing the epiglottis, if the epiglottis does not close and we swallow the food and it enters this respiratory tract, it causes aspiration pneumonia because this food reaches the lungs. The aspiration pneumonia is sometimes fatal and may cause death or otherwise the respiratory tract complications. Then the vocal cords. There are two vocal cords present in the larynx. These vocal cords are present on the right and left part of the larynx and running from the or stretching from the back side towards the front side. So these vocal cords run from the back side to the front of the larynx, both on the right as well as on the left side. These are made up of muscular flaps or bands. We can say that these are fibromuscular bands which constitute the vocal cords, and these vocal cords vibrate. These modulate the air and produce definite sounds. So therefore it is also called, the larynx is also called sound box or voice box because voice or sound, it is generated in the larynx due to the vibration of vocal cords. Discuss that there are cartilage plates to prevent the collapse of the larynx so that the larynx may not close or collapse. The trachea, it is long muscular tube. It is elongated portion of the respiratory tract which starts from the larynx to the bronchi. So the organ or the tubular structure which is associated between the larynx and bronchi of the respiratory tract, this is called trachea. It has length of 10 to 12 cm in an average human adult and 2 cm width. 10 to 12 centimeter, it may be up to 4 inches. So 4 inches length of the trachea is there and 2 centimeter width. The trachea is made up of cartilaginous plates. Again, these cartilaginous plates are provided by the nature to prevent the collapse of trachea. These cartilaginous plates are C-shaped or horseshoe-shaped. Horseshoe-shaped or C-shaped cartilaginous plates which are closed at the front portion and open at the back side. So we can say that these are incomplete rings. These incomplete rings are provided by the nature so that the expansion of the trachea may occur at the time of need or forceful breathing. So there are 16 to 20 cartilaginous plates depending upon the height and structure of the human adult. Again, the trachea, just like nose, is lined with the cilia, the mucous membrane and the rich blood supply. The cilia filters or traps the germs or bacteria. The mucous membrane provides the mucus and humidifies the air or moistens the air, and blood vessels or blood capillaries, it warms up the air so that the lungs may not be damaged with the cold air flux. The trachea bifurcates into two bronchi. So these two bifurcations or divisions of the trachea are called bronchi, or we can say these are the primary bronchi. All these parts, the larynx, trachea, bronchi, these are the just air passageways and no exchange of gases occur here. Exchange of gases occur only in the lungs. So air passes through the trachea to the bronchi. There are two bronchi, the right bronchi and left bronchi. Both bronchi are asymmetrical due to the asymmetrical position or structure of the lungs, because right lung is larger than the left lung. Therefore, the right bronchi, it is short but wide. Due to large size of the lung, this bronchi has been shrinked in size, but its width is increased. So it is more wide than the left bronchi. Left bronchi is long and narrow because the left lung is smaller than the right lung. So the bronchi, these are called primary bronchi. These penetrate the lungs. When these bronchi enter the lungs, these divide further. These divisions are called secondary bronchi. Till the bronchi or till the primary bronchi, there are cartilaginous plates to prevent collapse of the bronchi, and when this bronchi enters the lungs and divide into secondary bronchi, in secondary bronchi there are no cartilaginous plates. Cartilaginous plates started from the larynx, trachea and then primary bronchi. These primary bronchi enter the lungs and divide and redivide to form secondary bronchi, which again divide and redivide to form tertiary bronchi. These tertiary bronchi lead to the structures called bronchioles. As the tertiary bronchi divided into the bronchioles, all these components are present in the lungs. The bronchioles are 1 millimeter diameter. These are short and has no cartilage plates in it. These bronchioles carry the air, and the terminal bronchioles divide and redivide into the alveoli. Alveoli are the structural and functional components of the lungs. These are tiny air-filled sacs. So these are the sacs, small-sized microscopic sacs, which are filled with the air present in the lungs, and these are responsible for the exchange of gases between the blood and environment. We have inhaled air through the respiratory tract from nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchiole, and then this air enters the alveoli. Up to this alveoli, there was no exchange of gases, just the air was moving inside, or inhalation or exhalation. Then at this stage, the oxygen in the alveoli coming from the environment or air is given into the blood, and again the blood returns carbon dioxide to this alveoli so that the carbon dioxide may be exhaled out in the backward direction from the alveoli, bronchioles, bronchi, trachea, larynx, pharynx, mouth or nose, and then to the outside environment. So exchange of gases occur in the alveoli because all we discussed from nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi or bronchiole, these are carrying the air, either inhalation or exhalation. But in case of alveoli, when the air is present in the alveoli, alveoli may expand and contract. They expand to accommodate air and contract to release the air. When they expand, they accommodate air by inspiration, and then this air is delivered to the blood in the form of oxygen. The blood gives back the carbon dioxide to the alveoli. So oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged between the blood and alveoli. Alveoli gives oxygen to the blood, while blood gives carbon dioxide to the alveoli. So these gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, exchange here in the alveoli. Therefore, these are called structural and functional components of the lungs. There are 700 million alveoli in both lungs. So huge number of alveoli are there because these are microscopic structures. So 700 million alveoli are present in the lungs of the human being. So they have the capability of contraction or expansion to accommodate or release the air. Next are the lungs. Lungs are paired organs. These are the last, final and principal components of respiratory tract. So the lungs are paired organs. These are present in the thoracic cavity or chest cavity. They are two in number. They are conical shaped. Lungs, the apex of lungs, it is on the upper side of the chest, just lying below the clavicle bone, while the base of the lungs, it is resting on the diaphragm. Apex is lying below the clavicle bone, while the base is lying on the diaphragm, or it is resting at the diaphragm. Diaphragm is the muscular flap which separates the thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity. So lungs are asymmetrical due to the position of heart. Right lung, it constitutes 56% mass, and left lung, it constitutes 44% mass due to the presence of heart on the left side of the lung. On the left lung, the heart is pasted, therefore the size of the left lung is reduced and both the lungs get asymmetrical, unequal in size. Therefore the bronchi, the right bronchi and left bronchi are also asymmetrical and unequal in size due to this anatomical position of the lungs. So lungs are both asymmetrical. Right lung is larger, has 56%, while the left lung is smaller, having 44% by mass. Both of the lungs, these are separated by the space. This space is called mediastinum. The space between two lungs is called mediastinum. Pleura is the covering membrane, or the both of the lungs are covered by a double layer membrane called pleura. Inside the pleura there is pleural fluid to prevent or reduce the friction in the lungs during expansion and contraction. Lungs have spongy nature due to presence of alveoli in them, because we have stated that there are 700 million alveoli in the lungs. This gives spongy texture or nature to the lungs. Lungs are spongy due to air-filled sacs. The lungs have lobes as well, because right lung is larger, so it has three lobes. Superior lobe, the middle lobe and the inferior lobe. Right lung has three lobes, while left lung is smaller, so it has two lobes, the superior and inferior lobes. So there are, right lung has three lobes, superior, middle and inferior, and left lung has two lobes, the superior and inferior. Their name indicates that superior lobe is on the upper or top side of the lung, middle is in the center of the lung, and inferior is beneath the middle portion. This was all about the lungs. All the components, the secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli, these are present in the lungs. Lungs are inflated with the air due to the alveoli, and these are the sites for exchange of gases. Lungs are richly supplied with the blood capillaries. The blood carries carbon dioxide and delivers to the lungs, while in turn carries the oxygen from the lungs and provide to the cells. So this was all about the human respiratory tract. Hope you will find this video helpful in learning the human respiratory system, the anatomy and physiology of human respiratory system. Thank you.